Morning. So this is video 2 of the design series that we're going to do, and I'm afraid we're not going to get too much content as far as how do we design houses in this one, because I wanted to set up a classroom. I thought about where I was going to do this, and it didn't feel right to do it inside because it's suddenly, we're talking about a natural house build here, and I feel like it should be in nature. So I had a pretty big hunt around the plot to find somewhere that was nice, a little bit sheltered, that we could set up somewhere that I can, by classroom I mean I want someone to draw on a board so that I can demonstrate the ideas that we're talking about. Perhaps a table so I can put some, if I need to have some props to demonstrate some ideas, put them on there. Somewhere that's the same place so that whenever I'm doing a video on this series, that you're like, oh, he's in the classroom. Plus, a lot of the other videos, like the water wheel that I'm designing at the moment, it's quite a complicated design. And if I'm standing here going, oh, there's this and there's this and there's that, and it twists like this, it's all quite difficult to show what I'm talking about. So I wanted somewhere that I can come and show you what I mean in an easier way. So I had a bit of a hunt, and I found this place here, which I thought was quite nice. It's got a nice backdrop over there with the you can see up the hill. I mean, these are the big earthen mounds of these trees that have fallen over. So what I think we're going to do is the camera is going to end up somewhere, so walking backwards in this little forest bit, probably somewhere over here like this. I've got a board that I'm going to make to stand there. I'm going to make a table here. I'm going to put a couple of barrels and stuff to make it look nice here. But I thought, seeing as I'm making this, I might as well bring you along, show you what's going on, and then it feels a bit like your classroom as well as my classroom. At the end of this video, I think what we're going to do is we're going to outline exactly what videos are coming in the series, so that you know how we're going to navigate our way around this. So for example, like video number 1 might be, how do we approach the design completely fresh? Like, what do we do? What's the very first thing we think when we think how we're going to design a new house? And then perhaps we might move on to what's the most sensible next stage to design. When do we move to foundation? What type of foundations are there? How do you connect the walls to the foundation? Thermal properties, air properties, considerations. We'll kind of outline each video that might be coming up. Just I suppose test the classroom, right? We want to use it. So in this video we'll put that together. See if it looks right. I'm going to test 2 cameras as well. I'll at the very end I'll use this camera, and I'll use another camera that I've got, because I'm not sure if I prefer this camera, because I can take you around. Like, if I want to show you the stuff on the worktop, or I want to kind of grab you and go, look, this, it's really easy with this camera. The other camera is a slightly higher quality one, but not massively high quality, and you can't move it. It starts to shake a lot. This one doesn't shake, the other one. So we'll test it at the end. We'll see what you think to the quality of both. I don't think I can film with both, because it's going to be really strange with 2 different cameras and 2 different images. So we'll have to choose one or the other. But first, I think we'll go up to the barn and get all our bits that we want to bring down here, and we'll sort of assemble it, check the framing, see if it looks pretty. Sounds nice with the stream running through, so I'm going to feel nice, being here. Right, let's get some stuff. We haven't done the post in a while, and we've got a good bundle of bits today. How relevant they are, I do not know. I suspect this one is dates again, because they're from Palestine. Yep, big box of dates. Find it quite hard to get nice ones. I mean, I'm not quite as partial to them as she is, but this is for her as well. What is that? We're really interesting here, aren't we? Green tea. See, I think my wife said that's called redbush, but spelling redbush, boss. I mean, who spelt that? It can't be redbush, can it? It can't be. It's got to be. I don't know. I'm not gonna lose sleep over it. This one is. Better just go and check on my boy because he's. It's nearly Halloween, and we cut ourselves a pumpkin. Yeah, pumpkin. This one's for me, so it should at least not be edible. Oh wow, I didn't think I could be more boring, but light bulbs. And this one, I think, is going to be, you know, it's good, it's a lot better of Amazon having this wrapping because it's either completely recyclable or, as I use it for, you can burn it really easy, so it's quite easy to start a fire with this stuff because there's no plastic in it. So yeah, well done Amazon. This one is it's a reading light because the caravan has really rubbish lighting for reading, and I like to keep up with my reading, and this means I can clip it onto the sort of top of the curtains, shine it down, plug it in, light bulbs. There you go, tickety boo. Right, we had a bonus parcel just delivered, so I suppose we'll open it as we're here anyway. Big one, but it's for my wife, so I've not got my hopes up unless it's meant for me and it's got her name on it. Yeah, you got mummy's, I don't know what that is. Oh, we got this again. Probably just tip it over instead of opening this all by hand again. We got, what's this one? It's the cereal hoops. You can tell we like these because we've got one pack there, the whole box, which is five boxes, and then we've got some of those kids yogurt stuff. Well, I have to say this is half for him, half for me. Whilst we're here and we've got the quad bike, because that's the place where I keep, it's two, where I keep the mushroom book, is that's actually not the one we're going to look at. But I found this, I'm going to call it a toadstool. I don't know why I'm saying toadstool. I feel like little red mushrooms are toadstools, but got this guy here. I don't think it had the second bite out of it last night, because I spotted it then. But I've had a quick look in the guide to mushrooms and I can't find it. So I think I'll have a deeper look whilst I'm having my lunch to see if I can't discover what species that is. But loads of them around here. They look really cool. So I think I've discovered which mushroom it is, and if I haven't, then might be close. I think what I was doing wrong, I had to flick through this page, every single page, to find it, because they're classified in different sections of mushrooms. Like these are powder caps, these are poison pies, probably says, I don't know, that's not how you pronounce it, I'm sure. But I think the mistake I made was that I thought that was the finished article, whereas I think in truth it's like at that stage and then it becomes that. I'm going for this one because there's a pine cone next to it. Sort of looks like that, although the stem's not the same, is it? But I flicked through the whole thing. It's about as close as I could get. What's it called? Cystoderma cinnabarinum. Found this one though. There's a mushroom here. What's that one called? That only grows on a buried animal carcass, small one. So that one there, like the only conditions is it needs a tiny buried rodent, and then you get a little mushroom popping up. I think it's just such a specialist plant, isn't it? It's cool to see though. Well, see in the book. I haven't found one. So I had to give up on the idea of making the pallet table because I've got a lot less room than I thought I had. Got a big mound just there, and I didn't want to take up too much space at the back here. In fact, the whole thing was more difficult to fit in than I expected, so I just stacked them in a pile. At least I've got something to put things on. And then those stones at the bottom that I put down there are just to stop it blowing over. There's a bit of wind defence over here, but with our recent experience with the solar panels over there, you can just see this flying over. I'm not even sure those rocks are enough to hold it, but I suppose we'll just wait and see. It took me an age to get the that stuff off there. I've had this, got it for where we lived previously in my office, and that stuff is all just kept on there since we packed up, which is quite a while away. So hopefully when we use these new pens, well, they're not new, they're the same pens, but when we freshly put it on, it won't take me quite so long to clean it off. Why an orange board? I just think a whiteboard's so dull. Like I got that, like I said, this is from before, but whenever you see people standing in front of a whiteboard, it just washes them out. Not that the orange is going to make me look any better, but it's just, I always find a whiteboard's really dull. You look at it and you're like, ugh. Whereas an orange board, I don't know, it feels inspiring to me. That's why I chose orange. I think here it's also quite nice because the orange is it opposing in the opposite sides of the colour wheel. So we've got the orange, we've got the green, and then the blue. So I was kind of going for that poppy colour, just so things look a bit nicer. If you're, I found classrooms and stuff, they're just, God, it's kind of like that commercial drop ceiling with those foam tiles in there, the fluorescent light tubes. In fact, you feel like you're studying in a hospital or something, don't you? It's just such a boring, perhaps you guys went to a better school than I did, but it's just such a dull place to do any learning. Not saying you're going to learn too much from me, but it's just more interesting to look at, isn't it? Half this YouTube stuff is visual anyway, so it's got to look nice. I'm going to ponder the content next, so I'll write that all on the board. I'll bring the other camera down here for a test so you can see what the difference is between this one and the other one, and then we'll go over what kind of things are going to come in the future here, and yeah, we'll try and outline what we're going to be going over. Got to give that a better white though. It's all like, yeah, the words aren't there, but it's just mushed all over, so I'm going to give it a white, clean it up a bit better. Okay, so it's just rained and it's got very cold, so the pens didn't stick, but it's now getting darker, so we need to get this done. So I'll rip what I can. I'm aware that until I go and have a look at this footage, you may not be able to see any of this. I might have to add a solid backing on this. The reason I added the boards on it is because I didn't want the water to just, when it rained on it, to sit between the wood and the plastic. So I have, I've left that off, but it might be that these bits that you can see, perhaps you can't see any of the words, but I won't know that till I've had a look back at the footage. Right, so I wrote these down in my book, and then I thought about it, and I was like, well, why would you self-design? And I thought we should probably start with that, because I'm not going to go over each of these in too much detail right now, because that's the whole point of each video, is to go over it in detail. But the first one, I think we'll go into why would you want to design versus why would you go to an architect. And there is a third category of person, which is sort of a designer. I haven't come across them, but when I looked at getting certified for some of the CGI work I did, I'll put a couple of those up now just so you see what kind of thing I just do it for fun, really. It was just to get a bit better at doing CAD myself, so I did these projects in my spare time. Just enjoyed doing it. But when I was looking at getting certified for that, I realised there's another category which is just a design technician. So I've never seen one available and their services available, but you can be certified in that. So why would you do it yourself rather than getting an architect or a designer to do it for you? And then I thought, where do I start? Like when I go, okay, let's design a new house, flat, layout, workshop, garden building, any of those. Like, where do you actually start? And the first place I start is the principle. Like, what are you trying to achieve? What kind of budget do you have? Why are you trying to achieve it? Is what you're saying you're trying to achieve really what you're trying to achieve, or perhaps have you got something else in your head? By you, I mean me. So we'll go over a sort of principles of design. We'll go over that in one video. Then I start blocking out. So by blocking out, I just start with all of the standard dimensions, like how big is a corridor, how big is a door, what's a standard window size, or like a good window size, how big are kitchen units, how much space you need between them, all that kind of stuff. And going back to the principles from there, you can, have a look that if you want a big kitchen with a diner, you know that you need a certain number of units, you need a certain size table. So working with those two, we go through blocking out. Then from there we go through design and refinement. So blocking out, I usually just go, okay, so there's this room, this room, this room, this room, put it all together, see what kind of size we come with, and then we start thinking, well, do you really want to come in the front door into the master bedroom? No. So let's move that. Where do you want the corridor to be? What kind of visual impacts do you want? Do you want to come in and be able to see big outdoor space? Do you want to come in with a big grand staircase? Do you want to come into a nice cozy boot room, where you put your coats and stuff? So you start refining the design there. By the way, each of these is going to be a different video. And I'm going to add bits as we go. Like I might find that we'll get here and I'll remember something else, add another section. Then we go through site specific. So you might go, this is roughly the size house we want, number of bedrooms, dining room. You've got your kind of principal design in place. Then you might look, well, for me anyway, I often do this before I find the place to build it, because if you're like, okay, so I want a 30 bedroom castle, and then you're looking for the plot, you know that you need the plot to fit that. Whereas if you're looking for a tiny little house, you might need a small plot. So plus, while I'm looking for the plot, I like to be getting on with stuff. So for me, I design it first in principle, and then I look for where we're going to go. Or whilst you're buying one, I design the house for that plot, and then if you don't succeed in purchasing it, or sale falls through or something, like I like to get on with working. So I usually work with the principle first and then come to site specifics, which are things like gradients, weather, orientation, ground conditions, distance from the road, all of those bits that will affect the design. And once you've got that in, you've got a basic idea, like what are you trying to work towards and what are your conditions. So then you can start the actual how-tos. So I like to start from the bottom up. So I'll work through foundation. What different types of foundations are there? Which ones might work going backwards? Which ones might work with your principles? If you'd like a certain type of, you're going for an eco build, does that decision affect your foundation structure? Your design, how is that going to be carried through the loads of the foundation? It's not too complicated foundations, but it is somewhere I like to start with especially with ours, the way we're stepping it down, it is a more complex foundation. So I like to start from there and then I can work upwards. Services and foundations are parts of a sort of same section for me, because often the services will come through the foundation, or at least it comes under the ground. So if you're digging your trenches for your foundations, then at that stage doing services is a good time to do it. So I like to work through the services then to kind of plan the routes, where they're going to come into the building. I mean, what type of services you're going to have as well. Are you going to go for electric everything? Are you going to have gas? Are you going off grid like we are? Are you going part off grid, part on grid? And once we've got all of that, I start to think about, okay, how's the building going to perform? Because after the foundation, the services, you're starting to think about walls and how much insulation do you want? Are you going to go all the way out and go passive house? Are you going to go for as little as possible to save on money? What are the building regs on that? So minimum requirements, where are you going to place the insulation? Because there's lots of different places you can put it in the wall. That's quite an important one for me, because that's how it performs. How does the building perform? And I think that is how comfortable you're going to be in the house. This is all how much you're going to love it. but if it doesn't perform that well, you'll love the look of it and the flow of it maybe, and the materials, but if you're cold and it's breezy or it's mouldy, then that's quite a critical bit. Then I like to work on structure. So you kind of jump between these. So the performance is how you might want it to perform, and then the structure is perhaps how you might achieve that. So that's sort of talking about superstructure, which is the external structure of the building. And there's lots of different considerations and different materials to do based on what kind of design you're going for. So timber frame, I don't know what we call it here, but timber framing is the big chunky wood frame. They call it in America stick framing, which is just the CLS stud work. It's a much smaller type of timber and you use a lot more of it. And then you've got brickwork, you've got stonework, you've got earth bag, you've got straw bale, you've got sit panels, it's a completely solid log wall. So there's so many different choices. There's even a metal structure that we've used in the past, not for superstructures, but it's called fast fix metal structure. It's like an internal stud that's made of metal. Right, once we've got their outer skin, what are you going to cover the outside in? How are you going to get your airtight layer? Are you going to put that on the inside, the outside, middle of the insulation? I don't think that's a good idea, but where are you going to put that? What's your external coverings going to be? Why should you do that? Should you do it and fit it with 1 or 2 battens to the structure beneath it? Are you going to make the external skin layer part of, like if you're doing a straw bale wall, stick the mud straight on the outside, or if you're doing the brickwork, it's kind of part of the same thing. If you clad it, it's like another skin. Materials, what kind of, I mean, this can also be somewhere near the beginning, but I start to refine it a bit more here. So with the materials, what are you actually going to do as your finished layer on the outside? What do you want it to look like? Are you going to paint it? Are you going to do stone in places? Are you going to mix the materials? And how does that match back to your initial principle? Then once we've done all that, I mean, I like to get the external bit done, because the way that you construct things is I'm dancing around because it's really cold. The reason I jump to internal design afterwards is because when you construct a building, you start from the bottom, and then you work on the outside envelopes of the superstructure, and then you work to the inside. So for me, I start from the internal design, as in what kind of layout do you want, and then I come back to the internal design and start to refine it. So you might have worked your way through all of these and then suddenly realize that you need a really thick outer wall, or perhaps you need, with the structure, some internal beams to support the roof, or you might need a load-bearing wall in the center. And then suddenly, where you've got that nice staircase that you'd planned on your kind of initial quick layout, you might suddenly find out that's not possible in that location. So I come back to the internal design, start to refine that, add storage space, see if there's any fun design elements that come about from the other bits. You know, some odd little gaps in your floor plan perhaps, that sometimes can lead to really nice accidental spaces, which are usually quite fun to try and think about what you can put in those. Once I've got past all of that, I think we're at a pretty good stage of the design. So what I jump to is the cost, and I start thinking we've got fairly close to our final, let's say version 1. How much is that going to cost? And sometimes when you get to that stage, you're like, whoa, we need to rein back the number of bedrooms, like maybe 30 is a bit too many. Or perhaps the quantity of glass you've got is a bit too high. It's what you wanted, but then suddenly when you come to the cost, you need to start, or maybe it's the other way. I never find this, but maybe you've come in under budget, and perhaps you can spend a bit more, so you can make it a bit bigger. And then this is almost, I go back to the beginning, and then I start working through this all again, version 2, and then back again, version 3. And like I said, the current one we're on might be version 20. And I mean, if anybody's interested, I might go through a video on all of the different versions of that. Perhaps when we get to this stage, you know, we've done these videos, we'll get to this and we'll have a look at where did the design begin, and then how does that evolve through time. And when you get to the end, the one we're working on right now is completely different to the very first one that I designed. The very first one was very big, lots of glass on one side, single story, very, very contemporary. And then the one we're on now is, you know, kind of an Earthship type style, so it's completely different. But yeah, you basically just rinse and repeat that, and then at the end, I've said they're already refined. The refining's probably not so much doing this whole thing again, but going in and thinking like, okay, so if the door opens in this direction and the light switches on that side, and then I bump into the cooker just after putting my shopping down in the hallway, which is too tight to then get past, you know, that kind of refinement. Or perhaps going back to the internal design and finding the fun bits, and you're like, well, wouldn't it be nice if that little space there could possibly be a little seat which could have a lamp for some reading. You know, they're really refining it to get the really lovely elements in. They often come at the end when you've I mean, it's different to principles. If you're like, I absolutely have to have a library or a gym or a large larder, that's different. The refining is more like, oh, that's a really nice place to put a picture. You know, you've got a nice big picture and you find there's a piece of wall that would be lovely to have that, or perhaps an odd window that as you come through you can look up and just catch the tops of the trees. You know, those little bits are often about the refining at the end. So this is what we're going to be going through. I'm sure there's going to be ones added in between here. And when we come back to the why, if I've just discovered that you can't see any of this, I might have to redo some of this, and I'm probably going to add some bits around here as well. But there's 2 cameras filming, so you've probably had a look. You know far better than me right now how this looks. I just know from a tiny screen that I can see over there that I'm at least in the camera instead of not flying over the side somewhere. So I think we'll start with why would you want to design it, and we'll come back and hopefully find this stuff of value. If you'd like to come and join us there, be nice to see you. Let me know in the comments which camera you like, by the way. A choice may have been made when we review the footage, but anyway, if you'd like to come see the next one, we'll see you there, and we'll see you then.